Voice branding, digital audio content SEO optimization. Thank you for being here, most especially to you, the listener who is paying attention to all the things in life and having fun too while looking at things that are going left, right, center, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what's all this about, right? We are going to dive deep into this pool of information that I feel that you should be part of. And don't just take the information and listen to it. Also apply it to your daily needs, apply it to your daily workflows, because this is the very same thing that you're going to need as a business owner to make sure that you can actually find the connections that you're looking for, especially when you're looking online, trying to find information on who's this, who's that, what's going on, what's not even happening in the first place, because if it's not happening, then you can make it happen. But the only way for you to know what's happening is by figuring that out through search, through research. So that's why I love to bring topics like this and help you, understand this topic about voice branding. So welcome to Lou Candice, Manish, Martine, Brian, Sean. It's good to have you as well. And Mohammed, thank you for being here. You're all welcome to this space. Today, we're going to talk about voice branding. And voice branding is a lot to deal with your words, how you pronounce your words, because the words you pronounce are also being auto caption generated. So when you say something, when you sing a song and you have a song that says like la 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 la, that's what you're going to see on script. So if you have a voice and your voice is going to be discussing a topic that's going to help someone understand something, you're looking at tonality, you're looking at depth of words as far as how deep is your vocabulary. How extensive are your words? How can you not use in anything? Because that's how you can also flow, meaning that you have context to fill in the gaps. And that way it allows you to also be an expert, because when you start listening to people, you start realizing that the more that they speak, the more you start listening. And you realize too that it's just a matter of time before someone can realize and say, okay, this is actually for real. This is needed. This is not so much needed. But how you're going to know that is when you try it out, because your voice is what people are going to be listening to. It's what they're going to remember. If you're sleeping and you hear your mom's voice, your grandma's voice, your dad's voice, your granddad's voice, your spouse's voice, you're going to hear something, your child's voice, your grandchild's voice. You're going to hear a voice that's going to connect to you. That's a fact, right? So if you hear the Netflix sound, I'm just going to do a parody sound effect. If you hear something like that, and every time you turn on your Netflix, you hear that, you're like, okay, I know that brand. Da-da-da-da-da. You know that brand. So you start hearing things without even me explaining or saying to you explicitly what it is, because psychologically, it's already been imprinted. It's already been encrypted. It's already been understood. It's awareness that has become alive. Let me say it like that, because now you actually have something that you can actually see. Welcome, Desiree and Barak and Angela. There's so many things that you can see that let you as a business owner know that if you're scaling your business, hey Gemma, welcome. If you're scaling your business, you're thinking about the long-term plan. So now if you're wondering, okay, how am I even going to do voice branding? What is this all about? Voice branding equals podcast. So what does that mean and why? when you think about voice branding and equals to a podcast, it means that if you have a podcast and you are discussing topics that your brand offers to consumers and investors. Hey, Kim Ann, welcome. And Annan, welcome. Anonymous, welcome. When you have a brand and your brand has a voice, that voice is going to be heard and felt. If you hear someone speak, you're going to feel the way they're speaking. It's a fact. If somebody is speaking to you and they're just talking, you'll know because you're listening. And there's a lot that you get from listening than talking. So, what I know and what I've seen is that when you have a podcast and you're thinking about digital audio content SEO optimization, you're technically, if we're just calling a spade, is you're vocalizing your keywords. That's really what you're doing. Content SEO optimization for voice branding is 100% vocalizing your keywords. So the only place you can vocalize your keywords to a capacity that actually gives you the tenacity to grow as a business is through a podcast. Because tell me any other place you can put anything like this on audio wise and scale it, that you can actually scale back and peel back and actually attribute to the podcast because you did one or two or three that helped one or two or three people know about you. So when you think about voice branding, you're vocalizing keywords that you as a business owner or you as a business operating service, merchandise, franchise, enterprise, whatever it is, you're creating a business that is going to be felt through voice, through emotion, through feeling. So if I'm feeling some type of way and I'm thirsty, am I going to drink hot water or am I going to drink cold water? Am I going to drink warm water? Am I going to drink Dasani water? Am I going to drink Fiji water? Am I going to drink essential water? Am I going to drink alkaline water? Am I going to drink Kangen water? What are you going to drink? That's going to be up to you. Someone might say, oh, no, I'm going to drink coconut water. So at the end of the day, we're all going to drink water, but the water that we drink is not going to be the same. Welcome, Anointed Steps. It's not going to be the same. We're all going to drink different types of water, right? It's still water. It's still H2O, but it's not the same water. So how do you determine your voice is different from the other voice, right? Because we all have different voices. Unique voices, beautiful voices. So how does your voice become the brand that people want to hear or listen to or even pay attention to in the first place? And it starts off with building trust because there's no way you can talk to somebody that, let me say it this way. If you don't trust me, there's no way you can listen to me. If I don't trust you, there's no way I can listen to you. And vice versa for anything, friendship, relationship, business, person, whatever, family. If I can't trust you, there's a conversation that will happen that will not feel comfortable and you will not like to be in that position. You'd rather not even be there in the first place. So if you're going to have a conversation online with people who are going to listen to you, then the voice has to be a voice that people can trust. Even in the Bible, it talks about how, you know, he knows his sheep, right? And the sheep knows his voice, right? So if you know the voice of the person that you trust and you're following that shepherd and you're following that person and you're following that specific task, which is going to take you to the other side successfully, right? Through progress, then it takes the voice for you to know this. If I tell you turn left, turn right, turn left, turn left, turn right, turn right, turn left, turn left, turn right, turn right, turn left, turn right, then turn right. If you miss one of those steps, especially when you already have it in your hand or you already have it somewhere on a device. If you miss one of those steps, let's say you miss the exit, you might have to add a few more minutes to your ride because you missed that one exit that could have saved you the time that you're now going to put back into getting the same thing done. So, why am I giving this analogy? When you talk about a topic as a podcast host, as a podcast guest, and you address a topic, when you vocalize your keywords and you make sure that this topic is handled, is discussed, it's fully understood, it's processed, and it can actually be actionable, then you can say, ditto, I'm done with this topic. I can now move to the next topic or the next subtopic because you don't want to also be redundant. You don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over again. The only thing you can keep saying over and over again potentially would be statistics or updates or reports. But anything that is going to be outside those three would sound redundant because people don't want to hear the same thing twice. So if you're going to create content through your voice also has to go through what we call a keyword research process because you're not going to pick up the microphone and talk about something that is not research. Like this room, for example, I'm not going to open a room that doesn't have information that you would need because that would be a waste of your time and of my time, and I wouldn't want to do that. But when I realized that for every room that I have on Clubhouse, for every podcast we have on the We Don't Play podcast show, you can go to we don't play podcast.com or get it anywhere you listen to your podcast. If you do this episode by episode, you will realize that you're starting to have a very long term success pathway because you start to actually call the shots when you start thinking about vocal presence, vocal authority, and vocal resemblance. Because if I can think about your brand when you're talking about a topic, and let's say I know, okay, we're talking about marketing or SEO or real estate or finance or relationships or whatever it is, and I think about the one person that I know that talks about this best, you're going to go to that person either on YouTube, podcast, TV, somewhere. You're going to figure out and maybe a book and say, oh, yeah, I want to get to know more about this, or go to social media and find out what they're talking about, because that's the interest you have in understanding the concept behind what you're trying to evaluate from what you're building. So if you have a business and you want to show up online as an authority by voice branding, then voice branding is going to begin with digital audio planning, and more specifically, digital audio content planning. Because when you have a content planner, it allows you to address topics per episode, and per episode, you're able to achieve the goal. Like the goal of this room is to achieve this topics discussion. Because if you leave this room more confused than you came in, the goal was not achieved, right? If the goal was achieved, then it means that the signal was received. And if the feedback was received, then that means if it was good feedback, then that allows you to have room for more discussions. If the feedback was not good, it's going to repel the next thing that could happen. So the goal is, how do you address these things? The first thing you want to do is go to answerthepublic.com. Go to another website called sparktoro.com. Spark Toro, like sparking or sparkling. Toro, TORO.com. Go to answersocrates.com. Go to Soovle.com, SOOVLE.com. These are websites that are free. Check them out. See exactly what people are talking about. As a podcaster, or if you want to get into podcasting, go to IV.fm, IVY.fm. Welcome, Jose. IVY.fm. And check it out. Check out those websites. And then ask yourself, am I even showing up for these results when these topics are being discussed? If the answer is no, meaning that you're not showing up on Google, you're not showing up on YouTube, you're not showing up on Pinterest, you're not showing up on LinkedIn, you're not showing up on podcasts, you're not showing up anywhere, TikTok, you're not really showing, even Reddit, you're not showing up in those places that people are actually answering questions. Being ChatGPT now, especially with AI, you want to be in those specific platforms. You want to be there because if you're not there, your competitor is. So, how do you end up in those places? By answering questions. Go to those platforms and answer those questions. Go to Theo as well. This is probably going to be the third time you're hearing this on the show. Go to Etheo, ETHEO.co. I'm going to be having a meeting with them tomorrow. Go to Etheo and check it out and see where are you ranking on ChatGPT, on Cloud, on Gemini. Where are you ranking? Are you even in the first place online? If you are you showing up within the listings? If you are, what's the position? If that's a position, who's behind you? Who's ahead of you? Do you have a leader? Is there a top three? Is there a competitor? And you're gonna find some people you'll be like, oh wow, these guys are already in the lead. And we're in a very early stage right now with AI. So the earlier you're able to get this done, it's faster for you, especially now when you think about how to start a podcast. It's easy. People say, "Oh, it's hard to start a podcast." It's not hard. The reason why you think it's hard is because you're thinking about putting the cart before the horse. That's the reason. And if you could only look at it from the perspective of what question can I answer today? And how can I put it in a medium that I know can give me feedback, which I can use to give more signals based on the information I'm transmitting. If you're looking at it from that perspective, you wouldn't have to worry about all the gadgets and tools because a podcast is iPod plus broadcast. That's a compound word that was coined by Steve Jobs in 2005. So when we hear the word podcast today, we throw it like it's a bag of chips. But if you really think about it long term, your goal as a business owner is to show dominance and authority through text, audio, and video. And if you can choose one of those three and dominate, you'll be very far. And the best one out of the three that is low effort, high impact is audio because video is, you already know, high effort, high impacts, right? With text, it could be low effort, it could also be low impact. It could be high impact depending on how your SEO is with your text, but with audio, it's low because like right now, you don't have to do a lot of things. You're not really stressed out. You don't have to put on the camera. You don't have to you don't have to do much. You just have to listen. That's the best part. Somebody was telling me earlier today that she was listening to one of my rooms or clubhouse rooms or was a podcast and she was working. She was actually at work and she had one in her ear, one audio in her ear, headphone in her ear, or earphone in her ear, or maybe it was an AirPod in her ear, and she was listening. So it's like, huh, interesting. That's a good one. So it still boils in. Welcome, Austin. Welcome, Sean. So you have to think about it from those angles. Great question, Tolu. What about images? Images falls under text because when you have an image, there's something called alt text. Alternative text. That's why I didn't put image in the three because image is going to be there. When you have a video, you need a thumbnail. That's an image. When you have an audio, you need a cover art. That's an image. When you have a text, when you have a blog, you need a featured thumbnail image. You're always going to have an image regardless. That's why image is the common denominator between all three. But that doesn't mean it's not important. because that's also where people kind of miss it too. Because when you're optimizing your images to make sure that they can load fast. If you're optimizing your images to load slow, it means that you're optimizing your images with big files that are eventually not going to make it out, which eventually does not have a good impact on your business. Because when you start having slow speed on your website, it starts to slow down the progress of how people actually find you. So you're welcome to, because you're thinking about the long term goal, which is how are people going to connect with me? If it's content, let them connect to me for content's sake. And one of the best things I've realized, especially for content in 2025, if you use animation, you're going to go really far. I'm just saying this now. I won't say too much. I won't dwell on it too far, but that's what we use as well. If you use a hint of animation and AI, you're going to do really well when it comes to stickiness, because it also allows people to feel a little softer on content. Think about it. Which let me just say it like this. Out of all the videos on YouTube, right? Out of all the videos on YouTube, welcome Hidden. And let's actually, if you know this answer, what kind of content has the most views on YouTube? Just pick the category. What kind of category has the most views on YouTube? You can put it in the chat. Faceless? No. Almost. What type of content? And just think about the categories of content. This is it's something that we've all gone through. We've all gone through it before. Shorts? No. Mm-mm. We've all gone through this phase before. Welcome, Marcy, Dog, Ashraf, Rocky, Ashok, Nasli, Monk, Doug. Thank you for being here, and John too. Thanks for being here. Yeah, put in the chat. Let's talk about which content on YouTube is played the most. What kind of content has the most views? I already gave y'all two hints. Self-development, no. Music, no. Okay, I'll give you guys one more. Okay, psychological, one more. Educational, no. Almost educational, but close. It's you guys will be like, okay, really, favor? Not relationships. DIY, no. Guys, it's kids. It's kids. Kids shows have the most watched time on YouTube. Kids. So what are we talking about? Animation. I gave you guys a hint in the beginning. Animation. If you use animation in 2025 to exemplify your content and use AI with a hint of it, you're going to go far. That's why I was saying audio has the lowest effort and the highest impact. Video has the highest effort and the highest impact. Text has the lowest effort and the lowest impact. It could also be high depending on how you do your SEO and your schema. So if you're looking at it, thank you, Dr. Stacy. If you're looking at kids' content, then your question is, okay, what does kids content have to do with relationship, personal development, finance, real estate, fill in the blank? What's keeping people there is one, audio, two, music. And it's not just the music piece, because I know someone said music, I totally said music. It's not just music, because there are music videos, there are music shows, there are theater music, there's Broadway. So you can find music anywhere. There are music playlists, you can find music anywhere. So when you categorize it under a niche and you're like, okay, kids, okay, what's next to kids? Animation. What's next to animation? Music. What's next to music? Sound. Where do all these come from? A podcast. These could all live on a podcast. My podcast has music. Listen to We Don't Play It has music. And I'm going to put the link at the top so you can also listen to podcast. Right now, as of This week, our podcast, the We Don't Play podcast, has hit point 0.5% global ranking. And I've seen that every year, because in the beginning of June it was at 2.5, and listen notes usually takes a while to load. So I found out that yeah, it shouldn't take that long because it's like a credit score. If you have an account that you can see your credit score every day refreshed, you can get those results. It's the same thing with your podcast. There's a daily ranking for your podcast. If you didn't know this now. There's a daily ranking for your podcast show. So you don't stay number one forever. Yes, you can be number one, number two tomorrow, and then number one. You can stay number one. If you're 1,000, you can be 1,000, 1,020, 1,050, 1,070, 1,970. So as long as you're within a threshold, within a balance, you can be able to really flow. Because what I realize is with podcasts, once you go up, it's like a plane. Once you go up and you hit a certain stratosphere, by the time you go above that space, you have to stay up there to keep it up because you can't come down anymore, right? Think about it like a rocket ship, right? When a rocket ship is going up, it gets to a point where the fire in the rocket ship cannot go past a certain point because the fire cannot be contained within the air because H2O is three. It's water, solid, it's gas, right? So when it's in the air, it's a different atmosphere. So the fire can go through, and that's why the rocket splits with the fire, right? When that happens, that's a different sphere. So when you use that analogy and look at your podcast and say, okay, I'm in the top 10%, then I'm in the top 5%. You're not going down, you're going up. The same way the price is always going up, that's the same way your podcast should be going up. If it's going down, it's because you're not addressing the questions that people are frequently asking. You're not connecting with them based on episodes that you have actually talked about. You're not using social media to really connect to them on a deeper level or ask questions that are engaging enough for you to get feedback. You're not sending out emails that are allowing them to actually think outside the box and ask you questions or request for more information. If you're not doing these things, there's no way you're going to get that feedback. But if you're doing them consistently within a pipeline and you're using your voice to brand your content, then you're going to see leaps and bounds of content that's going to fly back to you. Because think about it, all these keywords we talk about, if you can just vocalize your keywords, put it into a podcast, and make sentences and phrases that allow people to connect with you that are emotionally driven to where their concerns, needs, pains, solutions, and everything within is also valued, then that's where things change. If you don't do that from the beginning, it's going to be hard for someone to have a conversation with you because if I'm not speaking your language, how am I going to connect with you? If I speak a native language to you and you speak the same native language as me, we're going to click. Even if we came from nowhere, you didn't know me from Adam. The fact that I said something that you remember or know that is the same thing that I know that others don't, because it's something that we came from, that's going to make us connected regardless. So when you look at it from that perspective and you say that, okay, yeah, it's English, okay, but people are speaking in different jargon. People are speaking in different tones and different area codes in different spaces. So if you're speaking and you're getting to know exactly how people are connecting with you, it helps. Some people are listening to podcasts to learn how to practice on their English speaking. I don't know if you know this. People use podcasts for mental health. People use podcasts for downtime. So you're not just thinking about a podcast as this place where you just talk because everybody's talking now on a podcast. But if you're thinking about strategically understanding where your audience needs help, and you as the voice are the shepherd to guide people in an ethical, integrity based way, you're going to be fine. You're not going to worry about, oh, who's here, who's not. You're going to focus on who's around and what they need because every person needs something, including me, right? We all need something. We all have something we want. We all have something we need. But if we're able to fulfill that need through giving what we have, then that exchange is going to happen automatically because we're vocalizing it, right? Faith comes by believing, right? Yeah, you can pray for something, but if you don't have faith about what you're praying for, how are you going to believe it's going to happen if you don't have faith in itself? It's not going to happen. So if you're going to have faith that the words that you vocalize in your podcast, right, are going to help you, it's going to be a great deal. I mean, everybody's doing this. So I'm not saying something that you're not doing. I'm sure this year you've at least turned on the camera or something and you've probably said a few words to the camera at least once this year. At least once. So if you've already done this at least once, it means that you've done it somewhere. It could be on your phone, it could be on Instagram, it could be on TikTok. But guess what? Where else could it be that people can still listen to it a year from now that you don't have to say twice? I don't see anywhere else but a podcast, because a podcast is a place that it lives on. It lives on. Like, think about this 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it lives on. By the way, let me just say happy birthday to, hold on, I just remembered. Happy birthday to Apple Podcast. Today they turned 20. They turned 20 years old today. I just remembered. They turned 20 years old today. And it's been 20 years since the beginning of Apple Podcast started, when Steve Jobs talked about this. So this is very monumental that I'm talking about voice branding today at this very time, because I just remembered, because I got an email this afternoon from Apple celebrating it. And I was like, oh yeah, that is true. So it just hit me like, bingo. Yeah, it's a big deal. Like, if you think about where you want to be in the future, it's going to greatly impact your future immensely, because now people know, like, and trust you. That know, like, trust factor is 100% ticked off. Like, it's kind of like 100% check, check, check. Because at this point, you can hear me, you can see me, you can talk to me, you can meet me. Like, what else do you need from me to tell you about who I am, unless you have other things or have other worries? But at the end of the day, there's going to be that resemblance. There's going to be that connection, because you've been doing this consistently. You don't just meet someone for the first time and then just gel with them. It could happen. It's not everyone that you gel with the first day you meet them. There's some people that may take time. Some people you may need a year. Some people you might need a day. Some people you just don't even want to talk to. But at the end of the day, you're going to realize that it's going to grow. And as it grows, your business grows. If you have a new business, I always say this for new business owners, for small business owners, if you have a podcast, do a video. If you want to do a video, by all means, do a video. Make it into a short, a reel, great. But please take that same video in its full end-to-end capacity and put it on a hosting podcast platform. And then distribute your hosting podcast platform across. Dr. Stacey says faith comes by hearing, listening to podcasts. Yes. But definitely listen to the word of God first before you listen to the podcast. First and foremost. I love that. Thank you for putting that out there. And does it matter what platform? Great question. So it matters. Here's why. Your hosting is going to be the most important place that you're going to have your podcast. Think about your hosting like, it's going to sound like a very weird analogy, but I just hope it makes sense. Because people always talk about these examples I give that are really outrageous, but at least it hits home. Think about it like this, right? You're in, you know how, I want to make this very easy. So a hosting platform is like an incubator, or right? Or it's like a, it's like a place where it gives birth to something new, right? Because this hosting is where everything is contained. So think about it like a pregnancy that, for 9 months, you have to nurture, you have to take care of the baby, you have to make sure everything's fine, you have to check in with the doctor, you have to be on your toes, you have to be on your P's and Q's, right? There's no room for error, there's no room for mistakes. And when that is happening, it's because you're very meticulous about every single detail. Now, I'm using this analogy to bring the same thing into the podcast hosting platform. When you're using a podcast hosting platform, you're looking at the technical setup, because how you're feeding into that podcast is where it's coming from, because you are what you eat, right? So if you're hosting from a platform that is not feeding well, meaning that it's not receiving as much feedback, or it's not a popular platform. It's not a platform that maybe has a lot of bandwidth, or may not have a lot of, servers that are heavy for, to distribute. You might have a problem with that, because somebody might start a podcast on SoundCloud. Someone can start a podcast on Kajabi. Someone can start a podcast on Podbean, on Buzzsprout, on Anchor, on Simplecast, on these platforms. They're great platforms, but the fact that you're using this platform, you have to also know exactly what it's bringing to you, because some of these platforms are free and some of them are paid. So it doesn't matter which platform, but where it matters is when you start to scale. That's the caveat, because it's like a house. Are you going to build this house and then sell it, or are you going to build this house and invest and stay? It's going to be up to you, because when you're moving a platform, it's like you're moving a house, right? So if you're building it on a house that you know that in 2 years from now you're going to move, you might as well move to where you're going to be in 2 years from now and be there first, because that's what's going to help you. And also with the bandwidth too, that's a big deal. There's a website called listennotes.com/stats. I'm going to put it in the chat for you so you can see this too. Listennotes.com/stats. This tells you about all the podcasts, because I love research and I love to also give you something to research with. So I put the link in the chat. That link, if you can click on it, look through it, save it, bookmark it, is going to tell you everything. Like even the number of movies out there, the number of audibles out there, is going to tell you the number of fake AI podcasts that were removed in the last month, the active ones, by language, by region, by genre. Keep going down, you're going to see something says top RSS hosting domains. That's where you're going to see where the top hosting domains are. Now, when you look at those top hosting domains, it's going to tell you how many podcasts. There are about 4.5 million podcasts in the world. So when you start thinking about market cap, you start thinking about market analysis, traffic, go-to-market strategies, total available market. These are the things that are going to start to pay attention closely now to how you're going to deliver that information back to who you're sending it to. So when you start looking at the platforms, you can choose any platform out there. The top 5 that I see here, that according to Listen Notes, from what I see, are Anchor.fm, Buzzsprout.com, Spreaker.com, Podbean.com, and surprisingly, SoundCloud.com. SoundCloud, I wouldn't put it on SoundCloud, because SoundCloud is more so from music. I come from a musical background, so I know SoundCloud is for music and it shouldn't be used for a podcast unless you're using for playlists. But that's not the best place to podcast, because you want to have a hosting platform that when you submit your podcast to the hosting platform, it generates an RSS feed. Because the very first time you start a podcast, you don't have an RSS feed. It's just like saying the first time you own a home, you don't have a key yet, until you get that key in your hand. That's going to be your key to open that door for life. Until you change it, until something happens, that's going to be the original first key. So your RSS feed is a key, and that key is coming from your hosting platform. So where your hosting platform is coming from, that's where everything is printed. That's why I was saying, like a baby, you have to think about everything from the title of your podcast, to the author name, to the podcast description, to the style of the podcast. Is it a solo podcast? Is it an interview style podcast? Is it a co-host style podcast? Is it a roundtable? Is it a theme style podcast? Is it fast? Is it slow? Are you going to add music? Is it going to be intros? Are you going to have advertisements? There's so many components to ask, but those are things that you know along the way. And for me, I didn't think about those things in the beginning. All I cared about was, is this mic on? And let's go. That's all I thought about, until later I was like, okay, you know what? Let me make this more intentional and start seeing how can I make this into topics. And I realized people started coming in, started learning, started understanding. The entrepreneurs are listening to the podcast. People that are in family, they're listening to the podcast. People are listening from all over the world. So I started realizing, okay, now I know what people are asking for. So let me come with topics that are going to explain these things. So there's no room I do on Clubhouse or on a podcast that is not coming from research, because everything that is discussed is coming from research. Do you do different podcasts for different niches? Yes, I do. We've actually launched 17 podcasts this year. already. Some are in the comedy region, some are in religion, some are in health and fitness, some are in finance, and it's been beautiful. And we do the whole spin off from production to post production, SEO, market it. We make sure that it's ranking, and you don't wing it, because these days there's no time for winging podcasts, because everybody's starting a podcast, but you should be starting a podcast with a head start. Like that Super Mario game, you should be starting off with a turbo boost, because you already know what you're coming in with, right? You're not coming as a rookie. You're new to this, but you're very true to this too, because you've been doing it for a long time, that you're just using a new platform to exemplify the same thing. So when you start a podcast, there's a way you're going to start a podcast, build it. This is going to be my 6th year in podcasting this August. And I've seen a lot of different things. I was talking with Spotify earlier today, and we were having a conversation about, how businesses are getting into podcasts, what's going on, monetization. We had a 30-minute call. So I'm looking at it from a long-term perspective, and I'm like, I need to tell you guys about these things, because if I don't say anything, you will know. You'll be looking for information, you can't find it, and then I'm looking here crazy, and I'm like, I should have said this, but I don't want that to happen, because I want you to spend your time wisely. That's the goal. So you plan out all the episodes and begin to, yes, everything, start to finish. That's how it's done, and that's how we do it. So I'll definitely love to have that conversation with you, Dr. Stacy, and know what your topics are, what you do, because I really want people to win. Like, there are 4.5 million podcasts, but they're only about 16% of them active. The same thing applies to websites. There are 1.1 billion websites, and around that 16% are also active. So what's going on with everybody else? And then the people who listen to podcasts too, you're welcome, Dr. Stacey. The podcast too, not everybody listens to podcasts, right? And the people who do listen to podcasts are the ones who are actually taking action, because those are the people who are driving, they're at the gym, they're going to work, they're at the park, they're at the airport, they're moving around, they're at the farm, they're at the restaurant, they're moving. They're not sitting down, they're mobile. So when you think about the people who you're connecting with, you know that these people are active and proactive. So when you tell them something actively on a podcast, like a radio, and say, hey, download this, or type text 56 to this number, and then do this, say this, people are going to do it, because they're proactive, because they know if they don't do it now, they never will. So people want to take action when they can see the opportunity. And that's where podcasting comes to play. One of the things I'm going to be doing this summer is going to be doing a giveaway. I'm going to be doing a summer giveaway for the podcast, just to celebrate 6 years. So I'm excited about that, because it's going to be like a challenge. It's going to be really fun, because you make it your own show. There are no rules in podcasting. There are no rules. It's you make your bed, is the way you're going to lie in it. That's up to you. By the end of the day, it's really thinking about how can you start creating content that actually outlives your time. Because if people listen to your podcasts 3 years from now, 5 years from now, that's a blessing, because that means people are still connected to what you've been saying since. And that really helps. Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for not gatekeeping. You're very welcome. We start and stop, create but don't release. Trying to get past this block, and this is the third conversation today. Yeah, we need to get out of this place, because one of the things I've realized with podcasting is that people stop podcasting because they don't believe in themselves. And it's not that their content is not good. It's just they fear the unknown. They fear the unknown. Because what if you did it? Then what? Because you haven't done it yet. What if you did it? And if you did it, you did it with everything you knew at that time. My first podcast episode was an IGTV replay. Till today, August 13, 2019. Go and check out the podcast. We don't play podcast.com. The very first episode was a replay of an IGTV, which came off alive Instagram. So yes, I had a microphone. Yes, I'm in music, but podcasting, I wasn't even thinking about using my own microphone. I was like, podcast, how do you even get on Apple? How do you get on Spotify on a podcast? Like, I was so novice to it, 2019. But I said, you know what? I'm going to learn this thing, because I've taught myself how to swim, how to cook, how to play the drums, how to do SEO, how to do a lot of things. And I'm like, I'm gonna challenge myself to get this done too. And now I've cracked the code. So I'm like, okay, now Pinterest next. So I'm doing things to make sure that I know exactly how things are working. So when you're able to understand, okay, this is what is going on, it helps you, because when you start having music elements into your podcast, you start having shows, sound effects, you start having all these things, people start to pay attention to those things. Because when you're driving a 30-minute podcast and you have music in the background, some people don't even hear the music, but because it's in the background, that's why they call it background music. Background. It's not supposed to be heard, it's supposed to be felt. That's the difference. So when you have background music that has a tone, that's a theme, that's a genre that is sounding nice. You may have a flute here, a violin there, a saxophone here, something there. It can really help out with your planning, depending on how you want it to be. It was audio off of TikTok, but it didn't release it. Yeah, you see, we can definitely do it. So you can write a book but the podcast is what pushes it out for those that don't read. Exactly. We have authors who have podcasts and they talk about their books, and now they're on Pinterest. They're doing really well. Now they're on stages. So one of them just got featured on Wall Street Journal last this is June, yeah, this month. So it's like, hey, I just show up for the right reasons. The right people will find you online and connect with you, because not everyone, you think people are doing things online. Trust me, not everybody is doing everything online. We have 24 hours, but not everyone's utilizing all the 24 hours. So if you can position yourself in a place where people can find you and vocalize the keywords that you pronounce and speak over your podcast, over your business, over your life, over your content, then people can start to connect with you, because when they start typing, you show up in the auto suggestion box. That's what starts to happen. Because if you have 5 episodes talking about the same thing, but in different variations, why will you not show up? Because you've been talking about it 5 times over. And if you've talked about it for 30 minutes to an hour each, that's 5 hours tops. So by the time you're thinking about breaking that down into content, you have 5 hours worth of content that can split out a 5-week content planner. Because podcasting depends on how you do it. You can do per week, per month, it's up to you. I'm doing daily because I realized, okay, I have so much content. I'm like, why am I putting this content in my drive? We have so much content. We had 530 episodes. We have over 100 episodes that have not been published. By the end of this year, I'm sure we're going to be hitting 700 episodes at least, because the goal is to hit 600 episodes by year 6, and that's in August. We're not far from August. So about 70 episodes left. So it's like, okay, people are listening. They have questions. We're answering questions. We're getting emails. It's consistent. Somebody sent me an email yesterday, and I've never met this woman from anywhere. But I even told them, I talked to her yesterday, and I was like, hey, I mentioned you about, what you told me yesterday because of what you gave me. This is someone that sent me an email out of the blue because I wrote an article. I did a podcast. This is an article I did in 2020, guys. 2020. I did an article in 2020 and I did a podcast about it, how to start a podcast on YouTube. Long time ago. This was in 2020. Welcome, Monty and Professor and Rishi as well, and Johanna, Val, and Notar. Good to see you, Austin. I looked at that and I said, this is very interesting for YouTube, for someone to have read this article from 5 years ago and sent me an email, and she says, hey, I saw you talked about compressing images, and I heard about I love what you talked about, and I love that you talked about compressor.io. There's a new tool I want to introduce you to, and this is the tool. I didn't ask her for the tool. I don't know who she is. Like, I was like, oh, wow, thank you. So she told me, she gave me the tool. I checked it out. I was like, this is really cool. I'm going to put it on the podcast, and I'm going to put it also on the blog. Then I asked her, hey, how did you find me? Like, what's going on here? Because feedback is the best currency for your business. If somebody has talked to you for the first time, ask them, how did you find me? Like, because that question you ask is gold, and most people undermine it. Church, office, work, school. Where did you come from? How did you find me? Because those answers are very unique, and they'll be honest with the answer. Hey, I was looking for this and I found this, or my friend told me, or I bumped into this, or I saw a flyer. You're going to hear something very distinct. So in this case, I said, okay, how did you just connect? She said, this is what she said. She said, favor. And this is through email. I'm just giving a paraphrased version. She said that she's in school, she's about to graduate, and she's doing a thesis on websites that focus on compressing images. And I'm like, huh? School? Thesis? Me? How? It's only God. Because the way she responded back and she's like, hey, anyway, I can help you. I'm doing a thesis. Can you give me more information? And this is something that's doing a school paper. So she's writing something for school for graduation. And I'm here 5 years ago writing this article, not knowing 5 years later this is going to happen. So why am I telling you this? Your podcast, your blog, your video can outlive you. If you put it in the right position, you will find the right people that will find you first. And if you're not able to put it through keywords and speak life, like this world came out of life, let there be light. So if you're following that same principle to speak words into your podcast, into your content as phrases that actually make sense, then why would you not succeed? I mean, if you go to school to read and you pass your exams, it's because you went to study. You don't just wake up and do exams because you're smart. Yeah, you're smart, but you need to sharpen your skills, right? Hard work beats talent every time talent is not working hard. So it's up to you to know exactly how you want to do it. But when you do it correctly, you will know exactly how it flows. John, I would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the topic and how do people still stay focused out of this voice branding?
Yeah, you covered a lot of things, and what I would say is, if you've already been podcasting, you take a break. Pod fade going on, get back into it. If you're considering doing it, get started, and really focus on your social media. But here's a little tip: stop trying to be an expert, especially in your first few episodes. It's more important to become a trusted voice, to become a friend that people rely on to get more information. A lot of people they want to cram information down people's throats, and then they get this imposter syndrome because they're afraid they don't compare to someone else. Stop all that stuff. Here's what I focus on. So Favor knows me. I focus on trying to get approximately 15,000 downloads a day on my podcast, my primary podcast. Right now, we're averaging about 24,000. On Facebook alone, I try to average, if we do 33.1 million views over the last 28 days on my posts. 94% of those are not followers. It's not your follow count, it's the other people. You really want to focus on engagement. So that means I'm trying to focus on getting 1 million views per day on my Facebook. That's not counting LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, or the other ones. Those seem to be the ones that make money. And I still have people listening to episodes from 2017, 2018. So follow that formula. Stop trying to be an expert, become a friend, be friendly, invite people in. And really, the hard work is all the marketing stuff, all the promotion stuff. That's where you're going to spend a lot of time and energy, not your content, the marketing of your content. Hopefully that helps.
It does. Thank you so much, John, for that feedback. Yes, it definitely helps. You have to be a friend first. Like, you can't be a lover if, if you're not a friend first. You have to love on the person first because you found a friend in the person. Like, you found like, oh wow, I can trust this person. I can actually tell this person something nice. Oh, okay, let me tell them something they didn't know because I know one day they're gonna tell me something too. So you're building that law of reciprocity, knowing that you're giving without thinking of receiving. And some people feel like, yeah, why would you you got to pay me for this? No, I'll tell you for free so that the day you pay, you know that what you paid for was worth it because you got something for free that still gave you value. Because it's not what you're paying for, it's the exchange of the experience that you're getting long term. When people are looking at SEO, it's like, oh, it's expensive. But in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute. If you thought about content and putting it out in a way that would really make sure that you have that authority in that niche, you would be so happy that you started your SEO early because you're able to put a print on your name showing that you're the dominant person for this thing, especially now with AI where citations is becoming a thing. It's always been a thing through APA citations and, of course, text citations, but now they are audio citations, they are video citations. They're going to be citing from this timestamp, from this quote, from this video, from this audio, because of what you're saying within those context pieces. So if I say, hey, listen from minute 20 to 30 about this, and that's going to be someone doing it as a school paper, that's because they want to learn more about that topic and then reference to that. That's why even when you think about schema, which is structured data on websites, they schema with podcasts. Just like with a video, you can have schema with video, you can have schema with events, you can have schema with products, you can have schema with recipes, you can have schema with blogs, you can have schema with FAQs, you can have schema with buildings, you can have schema with podcasts too, because podcasts are also part of the ecosystem. Podcast is in their billions of dollars in the industry. So if your podcast is there, you can do so much by just focusing on that niche. Just like John said, don't focus on what other people are doing. Don't worry who's number one, who's number two. Focus on who's listening to you right now, because that's the person that matters. Because if that person doesn't listen to you, how do you expect the person at the top to pay attention? It's not going to work. You have to, the charity begins at home. So you start with what you have and then you build from there. Hidden, we'd love to hear from you too. What are your thoughts on the topic, especially when you talked about, content that definitely has to have some educational piece to make sure that that voice branding has a trusted source connected. Hidden might be busy, but let me know when you're back. You could put it in the chat or let us know as well. But this is a topic I believe, if you have any questions, we have 3 minutes to go. Yeah, I had a feeling you'd probably be busy. If you have any questions, we have 3 minutes to go. Put it in the chat, raise your hand, ask now. And if you don't have a profile picture, I'm going to give you some grace and so we can talk about it today, because I know this is a new app. So is this Redec? You can unmic if you want to say something.
Yes, this is Radek.
How
I
are
just
you?
want. I'm fine. I just came here and to ask what is the name of your mm, podcast?
Thank you, Redek. The name of my podcast is called We Don't Play. It's called We Don't Play. You can find it on Apple, on Spotify. You can find it anywhere on YouTube. I'm going to put the link in the chat. I just put the link in the chat. So once you click that link, subscribe to the podcast, listen in, and if you have any questions, please feel free.
Okay, thanks. I will check it. And
You're welcome. Where are you calling from?
I'm from Poland.
From Poland. Wow. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Marketing Club. How did you find the club? Oh, you went back on mute, Redec. I'm not sure if you're aware, but if you're available, please let us know.
Oh, yes, yes. I was scrolling a table and mm, and I found this house.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate that. And feel free to join the Marketing Club. It's at the very top. Once you click the Marketing Club, we are over 351.8K members here. And feel free to connect with us. And, we have a lot of rooms here. Like, for example, tomorrow, we're going to have a room here at 12 p.m. talking about Pinterest marketing and exclusive updates. So I'm going to be talking about that tomorrow. I've been here all week, just talking and sharing with you for at least an hour and, giving information. So yes, feel free to join us tomorrow if you're available. And thank you for joining us all the way from Poland, Radek.
Yes,
You're
thanks a
welcome.
lot.
You're welcome. Dr. Stacy, how are you? Welcome to this space. Good evening. And thanks for communicating in the chat and giving us all these nuggets.
All the nuggets of what I don't know. But it's funny because I've been on Clubhouse. Redec, all you have to do is hit the mic and then it'll close. There you go. But like I've been on Clubhouse and I've seen other platforms like Chatter, and I can promise you that I probably get information overload because I listen and I absorb information and then I'll start things like I went on YouTube. I've actually created a cartoon, like I can tell you all the things that I've done and that I've started. And then after I do that one, it's like, okay, what's next. So what you said today, Justice, and I've heard it. This is probably the third or fourth time that I've heard it today. Just to get, because I just been praying. I'm like, Lord, what am I doing? Which direction am I going in? And while I see the podcast, I think sometimes I overthink. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to take what I have, I'm going to plan it out. And then I'm going to, because I've been on Facebook, like I lost a lot of stuff when I lost my account, when my account got hacked, but I still have like so many older videos that I could put on a podcast, whether I put it on YouTube or whether I put it on um, Apple or Spotify. But then I worry about the validity of, it's still kind of some of the same content, but it's how I bring it forward. So yeah, but thank you for the conversation. And I see you out here in these streets, and I'm gonna click in on YouTube so I can get some more overload, but actually get something done with it. Have a good day.
You're welcome. Please don't go on too much overload because we still need you out here. We still need you. So, yes, please let me know if you have any questions. The link available at the top will take you to my calendar. We can have 30 minutes talk, have a conversation, get to know what your vision is, understand exactly what your goals are, because it starts with a vision, right? And sometimes you may not get it the first time, the second time, but you get it the more you keep focusing on it, right? Because what you focus on grows. If you don't focus on that, it's not going to grow. And that's something that I've been focusing on myself. I spoke with Spotify today, and the things I've gotten from today, it's made me gear up. I literally sent another email as soon as I got off that call because I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? Come to find out, my podcast right now is ranking in the top 20 in 17 countries. I didn't know that till I got off this call today. I was like, wait, what is going on? So that's why
Yes.
thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm gonna I'm gonna do that one real quick because I realized, okay, like look, Radek just came from Poland. He just came into the room first time. So you never know who's listening. You never know. And you just have to be true to yourself because one day the truth will come out. Like you have to just stay focused, keep working, keep making sure that everything is good. And that's what I've seen. And I know that, okay, if this is the stats I'm looking at, then I know that definitely there are brands that can actually benefit from this. And that's why I always focus on thinking about those people too. Thank you so much, Val. I appreciate you. And what good to have you here as well. Tony, thank you for being here. And Tay, I appreciate you for being here. And Dorothy too. you know all these things is something that you keep doing consistently because you're going to see all these rankings and it's great. Like I've been focusing on the podcast this month to the point where I've like every day I feel like I've been looking at it like a brick. Like I'm like, what's going to happen? Is this brick going to move? Is it going to move up, down? Because I've watched this thing move from 116,000 to 26,000 in less than 30 days because I'm like, okay, now I see exactly what the podcast, because I had to think about it. I was like, why is this podcast? I mean, sometimes when you're on a status quo, you're like, okay, I got to figure out what's going on because you have to get uncomfortable being comfortable. So I was like, something got to change. And I realized, bingo, this is it. And now the rest of the podcasts that we have, there are 17 of them that we're also managing, they're all ranking upwards. And I'm like, okay, they're moving from 300K to 200K, from 200K to 100K. So I know by the end of this year, God willing, all of them will average anywhere between 10 to 100K at least. At the very least, because it's possible. If you can do this in 30 days, 6 months is nothing, but you have to plan for those things to happen. So I see this as a big way for people to get into podcasting because at the end of the day, as a business, you want to make sure that people are learning from you. You want to make sure that people are understanding you. The more you're able to understand what people are doing, the better it is you can actually bring it back to the fold. Because now I'm like, okay, people can benefit from this because when people are reading the podcast or linking, they're going to click on those links. If they like what they read, they're going to click on it. And I know what they like because I can see who they are. I'm not guessing anymore because you can go to a website like Podchaser. Go to Podchaser and you can get your insights and see exactly how you're ranking. You're going to see the age, gender, are they parents, are they not parents, what is it, job occupation, what's the family household income. You'll see everything because people are listening and there's intelligence behind these things. But if you don't know how, you know. So that's why when you look at these things and you start realizing, okay, now if we're ranking in 17 countries, what does that mean? 17 countries out of 147 countries listening, that says something. So if you're thinking about advertising or retargeting or focusing on holidays or anything, it changes. It's called Pod Chaser, POD Chaser, CHASER.com, Pod Chaser. And you can check it out, check your podcast and see how it is. I contacted the person that working at Podchaser today. So I'm going to have a meeting with her probably next week because they don't even tell you their prices on the website. And I had a call with her last year and I was like, I'll just give me a year, I'll be back. And now I'm coming back with a full force, 2 screenshots, rankings, pages, everything, evidence. Here you go. So now I'm like, yeah, let's now the ball is in your court. So that's how we do. What's up, Bella? How are you doing, Bella? Thanks for being here. Appreciate you so much.
So I have one question. So when
Yeah.
you start doing the podcast, no matter where you start doing it, when you look at Podchaser or the other one that you spoke of, I opened it up on my phone. Um, your name will automatically pop up if you search for it.
Yes, your name will automatically show up if you have your RSS feed submitted to those distribution channels. That's a caveat because yes, there are 4.5 million podcast shows out there, but not every podcast show is submitted to all podcast channels. So you could be submitted to Fox, CNBC, News, all this, but you're not submitted to this other news or this or Al Jazeera or BCC or or BBC. You can't feed those things because it's like, okay, how do you connect those dots when they're not distributed from within? Because your podcast RSS feed is your gold, is your key. It's like that secret key because everybody has a unique podcast feed. And an RSS feed stands for really simple syndication feed. Really simple syndication feed. That's what RSS stands for. So, meaning that if you have an RSS feed, inside what you're feeding into that RSS feed is food. And what's the food? Keywords, content, artwork, features, authors, text, keywords, everything is based there. If you have brands, they're going to be putting those things because those podcasts, if I'm submitted to like 25 podcast shows, that means for every one podcast episode I have 25 links. You know the compound of that? If you have 25 links for every podcast episode, imagine when you have 10 podcast episodes and your link is on every podcast episode times 25. So that tells you that you can have from 25 to 250 easily because now you have all those targeted pages from all those different sources linking back to your website because you started from your hosting. So when you now look at Podchaser and all these platforms and you search for your name, you're only going to see it there if you submitted to all the major platforms one and also the minor platforms too because I have a set list of about at least 15 platforms including Pandora, SiriusXM, Angami. There are platforms that people don't even think about that need to be on those charts that when you're now publishing your content you now can be found on Alexa, Siri. If someone says, hey, ChatGPT, give me the latest podcast on this, how are you going to show up if you're not within those citations? So that's really what people are doing now. Someone told me the other day they were talking about Clubhouse Plus, and she asked ChatGPT, and that's how she found my article there on ChatGPT talking about that topic. And I didn't know about that till she came into the room. So things like that is because you're positioning it properly. Everything is keywords. Everything is keywords. If the right keywords are placed correctly, it's better. Like for me, I always get better every day. I can't say like, oh, I always get better. I feel like I still need to know more. The more I know, the more I don't know. So it allows me to really sharpen my skills and help me help others. So that's how you're able to do it with your podcast, Dr. Stacy. Once you have it unlocked with your RSS feed, you should be good when you have all the distributions connected back to your source file.
So when I know that I had Anchor FM. I know I have one on there that I started years ago that I didn't go back and finish. But when I started, so by me being on there, is the RSS feed something that I would have set up when I originally set up my account?
Yes, when you first set up your account as a podcast, the RSS feed is the first thing that pops up after your first episode is published. That never changes because that's going to be your leading key or leading link that's going to be attached to everything you do from episode 2 onwards. And yes, it's Podchaser. Yes. So if you go to podchaser.com, yes, that's a platform. You can find your podcast, connect. If you want to also, see what's going on, monitor it, you can do a lot of that platform. So I wanted to make sure at least you can see that. That's why we need to make that move, brother, with that podcast element. Facts for sure. We got to definitely talk about that. So thank you so much for that, Dr. Stacy. Val, what's up? Welcome to the room. Question for me, comment, feel free. The mic is yours.
Hey, Favor, this is.
Oh,
So
we
I've been having a
lost
minute.
you.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me
Yes.
now? Okay, yeah, I was changing Bluetooth, so that's probably what was happening. So, it's ironic. Today is my fifth anniversary of my audio podcast. I started 5 years ago. Today I released it. So I'm excited. And I when I heard SEO and your topic for today, I was thinking, oh, that's so wonderful. And I think yeah, I'm just done with the I stopped doing my audio podcast because I stopped to write a book. And the book is and I wrote that, but now I am learning SEO and I'm blog writing, and I just turned one of my podcasts into an article. So I've been doing that. I've been tapping into my journalism degree. I'm actually using my degrees now. So this is exciting. And so thanks so much for all your wonderful shares, and congratulations to reaching the top of the charts in so many different platforms as well as in different countries. That's major. That's really major. I'm complete.
Thank you. Thank
Hmm.
you, Val. Appreciate you and welcome back and congratulations, everything all together. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I'm glad that you haven't stopped because that also motivates other people to keep going. Because when other people hear other people's story, it makes them want to also do more for themselves. And that's how we all stay together because that accountability is big. Sometimes we don't have that accountability partner to tell us, hey, you can do this, you keep going. But that person that hears you for the first time or just connects will be like, yeah, if she can do it, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. So I'm so glad that you're doing it and you're doing it well. You're doing really well. So congratulations again and thank you for sharing with us today. This has been great. I really appreciate you for, coming on stage as well. Hidden, are you available to speak before we go? I know you said you were driving.
I am driving, but I could talk a little bit. So yeah, I would say like some of the stuff you're saying, I don't think people really understand.
Oh, I think we lost you. Is it just me?
No, it's not just you. I lost them too.
Okay, let's try it again. Hidden, are you there? Hidden was about to drop something. Go ahead.
If he's driving, he might be.
Go ahead, Dr.
I
Stacy.
was saying if he's driving, he. I was saying if he's driving, he might have drop spot.
Yeah, it might be a technical glitch. Let's see. Because I know. Go ahead. Let's
Yeah,
let's try again.
can you
Yeah.
hear me? It's kind of loud in the background. That's why it was hard. But I'm saying some of this stuff is like people don't really get like the RSS feed and understanding that you create those links alone, like you said, 25 links. That's that's people don't understand how hard it is to get the other links. But if you can, these are, like trustworthy links. But I was saying something like I seen a guy like 5 years. He was like 5 years ago. He started his podcast, and he was using Spreaker, and he was just doing like 5 minutes a day. And I think he got like over a couple million people now, and he still just do like 5 minute daily podcasts. and it's like he, you know, he kind of blew up off the podcast. But I was just thinking, like me, I haven't used podcasting, but it's something I'm thinking about. Like if you can implement it to clients and stuff, it's like wow. I see the, I see how you can charge what you charge easily because nobody is thinking of these ways to even rank. Like you said, the keyword aspect is, you know, it's just a, it's like it's a reverse engineering tactic. And then you got things like Google Notebook LM. If people can use like these clubhouse episodes, you can go over there and turn them into like you said another. It's like you could turn into another podcast there on top of a podcast. So like you said, a RSS feed within the RSS feed. That's that's pretty unique right there.
Yeah, it's a beast. It's definitely something that you can. It's not really how long your podcast is, it's the quality of your podcast. You can literally go on your podcast, say a prayer, next episode, or you can give a tip next episode. You don't have to talk for long, but the longer you talk, the longer they trust you, the more they trust you, the deeper they trust you, the better it gets, the more the relationship is. Because you don't want to have 5 minute conversations forever, but at some point you want to switch it up or maybe have something in between. So yes, I
Well,
100% agree with that because, yeah, go ahead, hit
daily
it.
though, he put them out daily. So and then it's like a, but it's like you said, he teaches something, and then he like, hey, he maybe say, hey, go get this free, go get my free this, or go get my thing free, and send them to a link, you know, or send them like you said, he drop a link or something to go get something free, but you gonna probably only get it if you listen to the podcast. So that make people want to come back along. As long as they got some incentive, it might only take 5 minutes sometimes, depending on your content. But then, like you said, you can have other aspects too. You could create a spin-off podcast of longer version. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Especially even with Notebook LM too. You mentioned it.
Like you said, the when you compound like compound interest. So you compound in the what I'm saying, the podcast to other episodes and like that's what I'm thinking of. When you said that, I'm like, oh, you could compound these podcasts. When you said RSS feed within RS, I'm like, oh, that's compound. That's like compound interest. So
It is. It is compound interest, high key. Compound interest with keywords, because that is exactly where everything flies in. Even with Notebook LM, you can take your Notebook LM, like you said, upload this podcast or this clubhouse recording, and then turn it into text, get FAQs from it, turn it into an AI podcast where two AI people or two AIs are talking about you, about the podcast through Notebook LM, and that becomes like a behind the scenes. And I've done that before, like a let's say a red carpet or behind the episode. And that people listen to those episodes because it's AI driven, but it's still focused on the content. But you have to switch it up. There are no rules. And I feel like if you're able to do this, it can really take you to the next level. And Dr. Stacey, you talked about something too, with someone that's in Grand Rapids that blew off his podcast by giving away 1 million to community. Let's hear about that.
Yeah, so it's actually funny because I've spent most of my adult life in Grand Rapids, and then I moved in 2013. I was looking at LinkedIn, and I think one day I saw him, and I just really encouraged him. He was just doing big things. He's an investor, but I didn't really realize about the podcast. But I had sent him, some encouragement in the inbox. That was in 2017. This morning, I have a god sister that's in Grand Rapids that's just going through some really challenging health things at a young age, and homeless, and I just put her name out there and said, listen, she needs help. I told one of the pastors, and I put it out to him. But last year or earlier this year, he said he was doing 100 days of giving. And the money that he made, a lot of the money that she told me this morning, that the money that he was giving away, a lot of it he made on his podcast. He has over 1 million followers on YouTube. His name is Chris Sain, Sain, and you can go and look. And he's just been, and he actually, listen, I went and prayed favor. I was praying. I said, Lord, I don't know who's gonna help this girl. Another girl, her car blew up. My cousin's ex-wife, her car blew up while she was driving it. And I'm like, Lord, if I had this money, I would help these. One young girl I was already helping, but I lost my job a month ago. So that's why I'm like, what's in my hand where I can make money? And I woke up in the morning, and when I first thing I opened up is I saw the pastor had just gotten the money from Chris saying, but it took me back. And this morning, she told me that she saw him, that he had inboxed her. And so it must have been through the letter that the other pastor sent, that I sent to the pastor. I know it's a whole bunch of stuff and a whole bunch of backstory that y'all probably don't care about. But the fact is that when I went and looked, he's teaching about investment. And he has the email, the free club. I'm just seeing that when she said that to me, he did it off of his podcast. It's like, Stacy, get off your butt, because you're looking for where the money is, and the money is in your mouth, it's in your words, it's in what you're speaking, but you just need to get up and do it. But that was a very big push to see that he did that. Now in my mind, it's like, oh Lord, how long does it take to get 1 million viewers? But with people like Favor, spitting the information and giving the education, like, I might not be able to afford him now hidden, but there's gonna come a day when I can afford him. Hallelujah. I'm done.
Thank you, Dr. Stacy. Now, you've given us a very, very, very important story to even wrap up the room with, because when you hear these stories about how people are using their voice to be a voice to the community, there's a difference in the impact they're making as opposed to just using it to show up and talk about what you like or what you know. But when you're using it for impactful reasons and for educational reasons, it changes everything, and that just lit up the whole room. And I really appreciate you for saying that, because it made, and yes, sister, as well says in the chat too, it's so worth it. That's a huge big deal, because I feel like once these things happen, it lights up the room. He's a beacon of light now. Other people are listening to him and connecting with him, and that's why we're all here shining the light together, because you can never get enough light. You can always have more light, because it's going to be something that you're always going to see and have a much better vision over time. So I'm really happy that we're able to, really talk about this today and really grow as well. I want us to wrap up the room in a very unique way and put it in the chat. If you're in the audience, please put it in the chat and let us know what's your number one takeaway, and what are you going to do with that takeaway? You know how you take away food from a restaurant, you don't just take away and throw it. You take it away so you can eat it later. So what's the big takeaway, and what are you going to do about it? So we'll start with you, Val, Dr. Stacy, John, Hidden, and myself, and then y'all can put it in the chat too. We'll be here. Val, you want to go first? If Val's not available, we can come back to you, Val. Dr. Stacy?
Yeah, I can go ahead. I go. I think my takeaway is, ooh, own what I own my words. What do we tell our children? We tell them to use our words, use their words. So own my words, own what God has given me authentically, plan and execute. That's what I got.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Val, if you're available, are you there? Just-
Yeah, I'm back in my home studio. Yeah, I'm back. You were asking folks to give thoughts to wrap up the room. Is that about
yes.
right?
What's your biggest takeaway? And I'm loving the background too.
That's the studio. The best thing, one of the great takeaways for me is don't give up. Um, Yeah, that's the most. And then on top of that, you never know what impact you are making in your small corner of the world. So don't give up. Keep circling back to that same thought process. So yeah, thank you so very much for allowing me to share.
Thank you so much for being here. That was beautiful. Thank you again. Wow. I'm loving this. I'm also taking notes as well. And I'm like, yeah, these are big things, to remind yourself every day. John, what about you?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is two things, and we didn't get to really cover this, is think of a podcast as not the do all end all, but another tool. And when you do a podcast and you use an RSS feed, it goes to your website, it increases your discoverability in search engines because you're constantly adding new content. So it's a tool you want to get as many people as possible. There are people literally that produce episodes and within their first 2, 3 weeks have 1 million followers. I'm not one of them, but there are other people that do. And one of the biggest ways is with Apple Podcasts. You show up in the new and notables. That's all about your numbers, the downloads. So if you come up with a new podcast, start with 4 or 5 episodes, find someone reputable that's the key, reputable, that will help promote it, and then grow. And then focus on your social media. Then really put some attention into your SEO because, and this is something we thought about many times, that has been the big game changer. We now are approaching 10 million total downloads of the podcast since March 2017. And the vast majority of growth, the first 6 years it took to get 1 million, everything else has been since then. We were focused on SEO uh, for search engines, but also for podcast directory searches like Apple and Spotify, because they're search engines and they use the same tools. And about 58% of all new shows are focused on found by people searching topics, keywords that will make or break you. So, yeah, that's all I add. And if you're starting, get busy. If you left it for a while, get back to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. That was really good. I love that. Hidden said too, my biggest takeaway is that people have the ability to replicate themselves these days in ways they do not know. That is true. Vernell says too, continue using my voice to make impact in business industry with podcasts. Yes. And definitely, yes, it's a great thing for backlinks to increase your SEO, especially in the link section in your Google Search Console. You can see a lot of really great things there. If you have Amazon affiliate products, if you have Pinterest products coming from your website, if you have blogs, if you have audio like podcasts like this which are links, because you don't want to send people to Spotify, YouTube, you know Apple. You want to send them to your website first so they can now go to Apple from there. It's called first landing. When you have that first landing, it's first base, and you're the one that needs to take that first base. If you don't take that first base, it's linkedin.com that takes it, youtube.com takes it, and you don't get that real estate. They do, because they're spending their time on platforms you don't own. So when you control what you own and you own what you can control, then you can really do it in a really long-term way as well. Dorothy says that my mentor is been talking to me about starting a podcast and we'll start one in the next quarter. Yes, please start one. If you have any questions, book a call with me. The link is above. Let's talk about it and let's make sure that your show sees the daylight because some podcasts do not end up going anywhere. But if you have a podcast here, if you have a story, and we'll make sure that that story gets to the finish line. And a lot of people will find your content very, what's the word I'm looking for? They'll find your content very valuable because you showed up for them. How do you show up for them? By showing up with keywords that they search with. It's like saying, hey, and then you respond back, hey. That's because you heard hey. There's no way you can say hey if I didn't hey you first. So the goal is to make sure that you're in response to that so that when people are connecting back to you, it's a long-term relationship you're building from the hey, because you don't want it to stop at hey or how was your day. You don't want it to stop there. So when you're thinking about your podcast, what the name is, what category it's going to be in, what language it's going to be in, what style is it going to be in, it sounds like a lot of information, but just start anyway. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Before you know it, you're going to do an hour. You get more comfortable, right? The more comfortable you get, the better it is. There are no rules. at all. No rules on podcasts. It's free. And today marks 20 years. Apple Podcasts turns 20 today. So it's just the perfect timing and everything. Didn't know a podcast can be optimized in the search engine. Yes, it can. Yes, it can, because you can have a podcast in audio, and then that podcast as an RSS feed can show up on YouTube as a video, but in audio form. Now you have a video on YouTube that is coming from a podcast off a hosting platform. So it's really up to you to decide how you want that to be. And then from there, you can take it to the next level. So, yes, it's definitely possible. This has been great. I love this conversation. We've definitely covered a lot today, and I hope you've understood something. And it's also giving you encouragement to know that you can still do this. My biggest takeaway for you, and also for me, myself, and I, is to do research. Continue to do research. The more research you do, the sharper you're gonna get, the sharper you're going to get. Because when you're sharp with your research, you'll show up for the right people at the right time for the right reasons. And that's how you're able to qualify your audience and justify your content in a way that actually gives you more beneficial value over time. So with that said, thank you so much, John, Hayden, Dr. Stacy, Val, Tolu, Gemma, Johanna, Vernell, Misha, Sis, Michelle, Julie, Notar, and Dorothy. You're all appreciated. Thank you so much again for being here. I look forward to being with you tomorrow. Until then, God bless you. You've been listening to the Marketing Club at the We Don't Play podcast show, and I appreciate you. Have a wonderful night, and I'm going to see you guys soon. Take care.
Bye, friend.